Hello everybody, welcome back to an episode of My Thoughts. We're back here, and this is a little bit of an overdue video that I've been meaning to do for a while now, pretty much since the NBA Finals happened, but I just kind of got caught up with the channel and other things, and I never really got a chance to make it. But, pretty much just, I'm going to be giving my thoughts on the 2025 NBA Finals. I did this before. In fact, I think this was one of the very first My Thoughts episodes was my thoughts on I think it was the 2023 Finals. I think that's what it was. That was one of the very first My Thoughts episodes I made, so that's kind of throwing it back here. But it's kind of like I'm gonna try and see if I can make this into like a yearly tradition. I know every year I do My Thoughts on the Super Bowl, and I know I kind of slacked on, or not really slacked, but I know I didn't really make too much NBA Finals episodes for My Thoughts, just because it's a little bit more bigger of a stage and whatnot. So I think I'm gonna make this a tradition. Starting this year, I'll do My Thoughts on the NBA Finals every year. Maybe I'll even do it on the Stanley Cup Final, but that happened as well. But maybe coming next year. But I think I'm gonna make this a tradition, kind of like the Super Bowl thing, and yeah, just gonna be talking about it. So this year's NBA Finals. And of course, I got some 2K gameplay in the background here between the Thunder and the Pacers. Kind of a side note, I actually figured out a better kind of formula to, make gameplay. But that's just me thing. That's kind of behind the scenes type deal. But we're just going to be getting right into it. I'm just going to be giving pretty much my thoughts. Not really going to be reading off of an article here. But you guys know I'm way into sports, a lot of that stuff, and there's kind of a lot to talk about. But it was very interesting. I know I was kind of tweeting about it a little bit. So if you go check out the Twitter, I was kind of or the lack of there. I wasn't really tweeting too much about the finals. Been kind of quiet on there, but I made some little tweets here and there. But yeah, of course, it's between the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, a lot of people wanted to see this, especially when they found out they were both going to the finals. A lot of people wanted to see it because it was interesting because neither one of the either team won an NBA Finals ever. So either way, whoever wins, it's kind of a win-win. It's a first for both of these teams to get their championship and whatnot. So that was pretty interesting in and of itself. So both teams really have something to fight for. The first finals, win, and they both have something to fight for. Now, a lot of people kind of, I would say, sided towards the Pacers winning. A lot of people didn't really like the Thunder. Of course, if you're an NBA fan, a lot of Shea Gilgeous-Alexander memes. He's at the free throw line or whatever. But a lot of people. That's not the only reason, but that's just a lot of people didn't really favor the Thunder, and they more really wanted to see the Pacers win an NBA Finals. And just throughout the playoffs, what a run that Tyrese Halliburton went on. Just his whole playoff run, he went on a kind of a, dare I say, a legendary playoff run. He had some legendary clutch moments and clutch shots. He had some very, very iconic moments. He went on a good run, and including the finals too. He went on a generational run. So kudos to Tyrese Halliburton. He did good. He fought hard, and we'll be kind of getting into kind of what happened to him, kind of with his injury and whatnot, kind of towards the end. He had a great run, and I commend him for that. But honestly, though, I'm not really as an NBA fan. Again, I'm obviously they're not. I'm not a fan of these teams, but it was very interesting to see as a fan in general. I personally didn't really mind either one who won. I would actually be I would have actually been excited to see either team win. But me personally, I was kind of leaning towards more of the Pacers. I was kind of hoping the Pacers would win more. But it was nice to see, of course, the Thunder won the 2025 NBA Finals. Oklahoma City Thunder. It was a great series throughout, and it took it all the way down to Game 7. And I think, what was it, the first Game 7 within... I think it was the first Finals Game 7 within the last couple of years. It's been a while since we've seen a Game 7 of the NBA Finals. So that was such a treat to see a Game 7 brought all the way down. Both teams fought so hard to get there, and I commemorate them. Game 7 was in Oklahoma City, and the Thunder won, of course, but it was just such a fought hard game, and it was just so on both ends, and just the series in general was pretty hard fought and whatnot. So much, and it was just for both fan bases. Honestly, it was such a passionate, both fan bases very passionate. Each and every home game, whether it was for the Thunder or for the Pacers, you could feel the energy, the electricity in every each stadium, especially during the whole playoff run and everything, especially in the finals. But yeah, both fan bases I think deserved this, regardless of who won the finals or not. I think both fan bases deserved a Game 7, both of their teams battling it out in the NBA Finals. such a classic series. Um, I think it was a really good series. I enjoyed it. Some people kind of had critiques of the NBA Finals setup in general. A lot of people were saying that it didn't really feel like an NBA Finals, which I see that. Regardless, it was a great series. I really enjoyed it. It was some good basketball, and unfortunately, and again, kind of Tyrese Halliburton, he was having his troubles with kind of going back to him. He was having his troubles with injuries, but eventually he kind of ended up going into Game 7 and playing. But shortly into the first couple of minutes of the game, he went down and got an injury. So it's an Achilles injury. So now they said, and a couple actually, maybe it's good that I made this episode kind of now a little bit later because I got more news to kind of go off of. So it's reported that he's going to be out the rest of the season or the whole season for the 2025 to 26 NBA season. So that's very unfortunate. He had such a good run and he was such a good player. But I think, a lot of players kind of come back stronger from injury, especially like if you're out for a season or two. I think a lot of players, because they have something to come back to. So it's very unfortunate, but he kind of went down fighting. He definitely wanted to play. He definitely wanted to fight for that championship, and it was just very unfortunate to kind of see him go down. He wanted it all. He definitely wanted to fight, and it was very unfortunate to see. Commemorative to Tyrese Halliburton, he had such a great run. Like I was saying earlier, it was such a good run, man. Not maybe one of the best, honestly. The best runs. But and honestly, both of these teams, kind of going between the Thunder, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and the whole, he won Finals MVP, by the way. That's just kind of going off that. He won Finals MVP. But both of these teams have such a young core, and that's just so good to see. Younger players out there really have something to prove out there, and it's not like the older players who kind of already have a resume and whatnot in the league. But both teams have such a young core, and it was just really cool, even on the Thunder side, to see the Thunder win and see such a young team win. It was really nice. Young team is nice to win, and now I think this franchise has a lot of the Pacers and the Thunder. I'm kind of speaking for both. I think both franchises honestly have a bright future ahead of them with some of the more younger talents that they have, like Tyrese Halliburton and like SGA and like Chet Holmgren and all the other guys. The younger core. I think both teams have such a bright future, and we're definitely, in my opinion, I think it's not the only time we're going to see these two teams make a finals appearance. I think the Pacers will definitely be back for a finals appearance. Thunder definitely going back. Can't necessarily say when, but I think it's definitely going to see them in the finals again at some point in the next couple years, definitely within, close history. So, or the near future, I should say. But both teams are so. I think just both teams in general have such a young and bright future. Young teams and whatnot, and such a bright future ahead of them. And commemorative to both of their teams, I commemorate them. Such a lovely pair of teams. So I really enjoyed it. I think it was. I watched most of the games. I think it was a very good series, and I think it was a really good NBA Finals series. And like I was saying, some people kind of had their critiques of it, but I think it was a fine series. And it was very nice to see. And especially for Game 7, like I was saying, that's such a treat. It was so nice to see, and it was just a really good series. So I enjoyed it. Pacers Thunder, NBA Finals 2025. And and unfortunately, it was kind of another thing here. Longtime Pacer, Miles Turner, he did get traded after playing in the finals. He got traded to the Milwaukee Bucks not too long after the finals ended. Got traded to the Bucks, which is just kind of random, honestly. I kind of thought the Pacers would be keeping him around. He's the big man center. I really thought that the Pacers would be kind of keeping him around, but they traded him to the Bucks. Just in kind of trade news, but they traded him to the Bucks. It's just a shame because he's been on the Pacers for so long, and just especially after making, the finals, I thought for sure they would keep him around. He's so talented, especially along with you put him in there with Pascal Siakam. He was such a good talent, I think, on the Pacers. I'm surprised they didn't keep him, and they traded him to Milwaukee, but I guess that's just how it is. And I'm not even a Pacers fan, I'm just saying that. That's just a real shame that they traded him away. But yeah, that's just kind of another little thing just to kind of add on there. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have. I know it wasn't too long of a video, but I figured I'd come on here. It's kind of an overdue video and talk about the NBA Finals for 2025. Now again, like I was saying, I think I'm going to make this shit tradition. But it's definitely not going to be as late next year. But I think I'm going to make this a tradition and kind of come on here talking about the NBA Finals every year. And like I was saying, maybe I'll talk about the Stanley Cup Finals. Maybe that'll be a thing next year. So I'll do like the big three of big sports finals and whatnot. You know, you got the Super Bowl every year in February, and of course the Stanley Cup Finals in June, and you know, along with the NBA Finals. I think that'd be cool. So maybe I'll see if I can make this a tradition and be seeing you guys again next year. Of course, I think I'm going to make probably some other videos about the NBA, my thoughts and whatnot, and NBA, maybe some NHL videos once the 2 seasons kind of come back, and even some NFL videos. So I'm going to be making some sports content in terms of my thoughts. Kind of coming up here, a little bit more sports content as kind of the sports seasons pick up. You know, the NFL is coming back soon. NBA and NHL a little bit longer, kind of in the fall time. But I think I'm going to be making more sports kind of related to my thoughts, depending on the situation and whatnot, coming as the seasons come back. So if you're interested in sports, I got a lot more coming. I got plans for that. So yeah, make sure to stay tuned for that. Coming up in the next few months. But yeah, for now, that'll do it for today's episode of My Thoughts. Of course, make sure to leave a comment down below what you think of the, you know, whatever you thought of the NBA Finals this year, if it was good, bad, whatever you thought about it. I'm interested to see, you know, always, you know, discussion in the comments and whatnot. And, you know, just general feedback, you know, the usual stuff. I got a fun video planned for next week, so make sure to stay tuned for that. Next week's video should be pretty fun, for you guys to watch. So stay tuned for that. Just kind of throwing that out there. You know, of course, make sure to subscribe for more content. Link in the all stuff: Discord, Twitch, Instagram, Twitter. Links in the description. And yeah, like I was saying, we got big stuff coming. Fun video next week, and a lot more coming in the in the coming weeks. But yeah, for now, I will see you guys in the next video. But be sure to stay tuned.